The purpose of this particular video is to go through your task sheet. It's important to know exactly what it is you're doing so you can be successful. So still an assessment type folio, because this particular part of your work is going to join your folio. You will have got the assignment on Thursday the 23rd of the 8th, and there's a checkpoint date, more on that in a moment. And then your final due date is effectively 2 months after you first get it released. So you should have plenty of time to do, a really decent, meaningful project. So what is the project? You're going to undertake a social enterprise in a group, identifying your goals and how you will achieve them. You're going to select another capability. So there's 2 capabilities that you're going to be developing. The first one is personal social capability. Everybody is going to be developing that particular one. And then there's a second one that you can choose to develop, and that might be based on the particular skill or talent that you bring to your group. Those personal and social capability and the capability are going to be developed whilst you undertake your social enterprise, and all of your planning and your goal setting will be reflected in your e-portfolio. So what is a social enterprise? Well, the first thing you need to do is get your head around that idea. So there's kind of interchangeably called social entrepreneurship or social enterprise or social innovation. If you want to get your head around that idea, you really should engage and have a look closely at the PowerPoint presentation on that topic. That's in the Getting Started section of the website. There's also, that's the first video up there too, where I go through it a bit. Essentially, social enterprise or social innovation is about, or in schools, is about you working in groups to develop your capabilities, being able to utilise your particular skills and talents and passions in order to solve problems, so identify problems, solve problems in teams, and come up with creative solutions. Next, after you have a bit of a better sense of, exactly what does social enterprise or social entrepreneurship look like, you'll want to form groups of 6 or 8, and you'll be going through a process called solutions fluency. The reason why we've selected that process is because it's just an easy way to remember different steps you go through in order to find a solution to a problem. The reason why it's easy is because they're all start with D's, so there's 6 D's. That should be much clearer as long as you follow the scaffolding sheet, the project planning document. If you follow that, there's each section. So for instance, define, and the second one, discover, third one, dream. Each section has questions that can help you elaborate on each of those parts. If you answer those questions really, really well, you'll be able to do each part of the solutions fluency. After dream, you've got the process of designing. So the first part, defining your problem. What is the problem? What is the task that we're doing? You discover a bit, do a bit of research, and then you have, some divergent thinking, dreaming, what are the possibilities here? And then you kind of do some kind of converging of your divergent thinking, and go through the process of actually planning in detail what you're going to do. And again, on the planning document, it has a range of questions that should be able to, if you follow them really, really carefully, you'll be able to do that particular part of the process well. that is the point also where you identify, exactly what your goals are. So that's, part of your performance standards, and you've seen that in your other PLP tasks, and also the capabilities that you're developing and how you're going to do that. You'll also go through, reutilize your SMART goal setting stuff that you did in task 2. It should be clear based on the template, and there's another video also that kind of works through the template. So if you have any issues with that, check in on that and or see your PLG teacher and your team. Importantly, that's a checkpoint. So at that particular point, you will need to show your PLG teacher the plan, and you'll need to send it to me on day map with the name of all your group members and your PLG. So myself and the PLP steering committee, who's made up of students in year 10 who will instantly be working with me partly during PLG time, can have a look and give you some feedback, see where we might be able to help, support, etc., etc. At that stage also, you might decide as a class that you do one big project together. So there's a lot of really talented PLP teachers. There might be a really particularly good idea in your class. It's really thoroughly well thought out, and as a whole class you think, yep, we'd like to pull all our resources and focus on this one thing. So the ideas are pretty endless. At this particular point, you also define what a good social enterprise or innovation would actually look like. And usually it means making sure that you've planned you've developed a solution, an actual, product that you can point to, product or an activity that you can point to that is a response to a problem. Last year, for instance, there was a great idea of putting a friendship seat at Stradbroke Primary, and the class, did some really good work around planning that with Stradbroke Primary. The friendship seats themselves work great. There was a particularly effective thing at my daughter's school, for instance, and essentially what it means is if you don't have someone to play with, you can go sit down at the friendship seat, and then, as soon as someone else sees you, they come over and like you join in their play. So it's a really nice way of making sure everybody's playing feels welcome, and everyone's well-being is everyone's business. You might want to explore something like that, for instance. There are, like I said, lots of talented PLP teachers. Got quite a few tech teachers, fortunate enough, in our PLP team. Checkpoint for your design. The next stage is to make sure that you're working with and identifying your allies. So some of these projects can, be large, or not necessarily, but you're developing your capabilities. So these are things that you may not necessarily be used to doing, or processes that you may not be used to undertaking. In order to help you with that, you just really need to be working with allies. And on the PowerPoint, I give a big list of people that you can work with. Myself, PLP steering committee, your PLG teacher, people like Daniel, Mr. Mosley, etc. Final part is delivering the solution to your project. And what you really want to make sure you're doing while you're delivering it is making record of everything you do. So take photos, etc., because that'll be part of your assessment. The final D in the Solutions Fluency 6 Ds is debrief. For that, there's a couple of different components, and we have a look down here. First component is to put on your e-portfolio responses to goals, the responses to the questions on the goals and capabilities. Now those questions can be found on the planning document. And then there's two other kind of related things that you'll be doing. One, you'll be putting on display your project things that you've done on a pinboard as part of an expo, and then you'll be presenting to the panel, here's my work, here were the goals and capabilities that I planned on, and here is how they developed. And you'll be assessed by that panel. That panel will be made up of myself, Miss Robinson, a student member, and hopefully intermittently a community member too. Okay, so the assessment design criteria, or the performance standards that you're working towards, you will have already seen these particular ones. You've done them in other tasks rather. Developing personal and learning goals and strategies to achieve them, and developing your capabilities. In this case, the personal and social capability, everyone's doing that, and one other of your choice. So what does that look like broken down? You want to make sure you're planning your social enterprise using the template really thoroughly, and you respond to all the questions in the template really thoroughly. If you do that, you will develop personal learning goals and you'll develop strategies to achieve them. And as part of that, you'll want to develop a possible solution to your social problem. Capabilities, one is a little bit more complex. Again, if you really thoroughly utilize that project planner, you'll be able to plan and develop and identify how you're going to develop two capabilities. One is personal and social, and the other is one of your choice. You'll have to, in order to do that, you'll need to kind of unpack what developing that capability in that particular project will look like. So for instance, personal and social capability in this task is a lot of the personal stuff. So things like metacognition, what am I doing? What do I need to do next? Things like time management, self-management, and then there's the social side, which is the collaboration. So to what extent am I collaborating? How well am I communicating with my team and people outside of my team? And then the other part of the social is developing solutions for and working with the community. The next part, this partly depends on the capability that you've chosen. So whilst you're doing the project, you'll be developing the capability that you've chosen, and you'll be assessed on that. So if, for instance, you've chosen creative and critical thinking because you really wanted to develop that particular capability, and you know that this particular task is going to require you to be creative about solutions and critical about, what is around you already, identifying problems, etc., then that will form part of your assessment. The degree to which you demonstrate that development of and use of that capability in your project. Next part is the personal and social capability, and here, I just mentioned some of these things, but you'll be assessed on basically to what extent do you show and develop your personal and social capability over the period of this project. So how can you show us that, you've developed self-management, time management, collaboration, etc. And finally, the last part, in order to make sure you're reaching that particular performance standard, is you'll want to reflect on that in your e-portfolio using the questions in the template, and that's in the project planner, in the debrief section. Here's the performance standards. It's really important to know exactly what it is you're trying to do. Otherwise, if you don't know where you're heading, it's very hard to be successful. One of the ways that I like to break down performance standards is by breaking them down in terms of nouns and adjectives and verbs. So what is it that you're doing? What is it about? And then how. So for instance, do some nouns. So we're going to have, really that's a noun group, personal and learning goals and strategies. So okay, what am I doing? I'm going to be doing something about personal learning goals and strategies, and I'm going to be doing something about capabilities. What exactly am I doing with those things? Well, I'm identifying them. So another colour. And I'm exploring them in detail, although the detail is really an adjective. And I am, in the case of the capabilities, I'm developing them. So I'm actually growing in a particular capability. Oh, we missed a noun, goals. So the capability there has to be aligned to your goals. And then we have the adjectives, so we have to be clear about what we're doing. That means you want to make sure that you're writing to the template really thoroughly. So paragraphs are better than, minimal sentences. You want to be purposeful about it. So this is what I'm trying to achieve, and this is how I'm doing it. You want to be detailed about it. And those strategies have to be effective to what you're trying to achieve. Missed. There's another develops. Another verb. Okay, so with your capability, you're effectively developing it. So you want to show that you have developed it significantly. This is how I developed my personal social capabilities. This is how I developed my other capability of choice. And you want to do that in a well-planned, insightful, and/or creative way. I suggest you also break down the nouns, the verbs, and the adjectives of performance standards as a class. And if there are any other issues about, what is it that you're trying to do, there are lots of resources. So you can rewatch this video any number of times. It's no good being stuck and thinking, I don't know what to do, because you're developing your personal and social capability. And personal and social capability says to yourself, metacognition stuff, I don't know what to do. How can I go about finding out? And then go about finding it. So one of the options is, you keep watching this video. One of the options is talking to PLG teacher or your team. You look at other videos. You talk about the task sheet with your parents. There are many, many options, and hopefully this particular video has helped somewhat. Good luck.